Kelsey, and back with another scrapbooking process video, and this is layout 2 with this collection. So you see all of the scraps I have from layout 1. I'm pulling over to this layout. I decided to use the pink grid paper. I kind of wanted something kind of a neutral background since I knew I was going to be pulling in these scraps that could read kind of busy. I decided to do another kind of go-to design I really like to do where I have a strip running vertically up the page and then my photo kind of anchored onto that strip and then embellishing out from there. But I'm going to kind of do it in a different way than I normally do. I have two 4x4 photos here. You can see I'm being frugal and trying to be strategic about how I piece together this background so I can use as many scraps as possible. So here you can see I'm gutting the excess from that grid for another layout. I'm going to clean my edges up a little bit. But I really like this as my anchor point, and instead of matting my photos together like I usually like to do, I'm going to mat them individually in white and stagger them, and I'll still have them anchored on this floral piece, but I'm going to do kind of different layering than I normally do. I definitely want to pull the wood grain in. This is kind of a companion page to the first layout you saw. Pretty much where we did the archery was where the barn was, where we did the horseback riding, and they also had some other animals. So I just wanted to document some of the animals we saw. They had this little alpaca and this goat that was just living its best life. And I just think it's kind of funny. It's kind of a running joke with me and Marcus, kind of my whole family, honestly, that like wherever we go somewhere, like I will find the animals and no matter where we are. So I just thought it was nice and kind of funny that on both days we were here, we got to see animals and do different things with them. So I'm thinking I'll have them staggered just like this. And then I'll build layers from there. I thought about using a branding strip on the left-hand side of this floral, but I actually thought it would be better and add a little bit more interest and contrast if I use the wood grain for that. But because I just have a scrap and it's not 12 by 12, I decided to do kind of a hack that I like to do in these situations and just take two torn pieces and overlap them to create the visual 12-inch strip. But it adds some interest just because there's more than one layer and then you have that torn detail, and I think that's just kind of a fun way to get around if you don't have a 12-inch scrap, but you need it to stretch across the page. I really like doing this technique. So I'm gonna glue those in. I really like that contrast. Felicity Jane is so clean and crisp and pretty that pulling in this wood grain with some texture I think is really fun. It's not something I would always do with Felicity Jane, but especially because the past couple layouts we were outside, and in this one we have some animals and they're a little dirty because we're outside. I think it's a fun thing to pull in. So I'm going to have that as my detail on the left, and then I just know going forward I do want to pull in some wood grain in some other areas just so it all ties together and it doesn't stick out like a sore thumb like that pattern isn't supposed to be there. So one of the ways I like to get around that is pull it in as a tag somewhere. And since I do want to branch out from these photos horizontally, I decided to make a little wood grain tag to layer behind the goat. So I'm kind of doing that reverse L design, and I really love that. And I think that's also kind of a more different layout than I typically like to use. Usually I like the weight of the page and most of the layers to be towards the bottom, just because visually that kind of makes sense to me. But I think it's really interesting when you kind of flip things on their head and do things in a different way than you normally would. And this is one of those examples where I really like how it's kind of the weights at the top and it just adds a little bit of change and like a different thing in my album. Here I'm pulling in a scrap. I think that's from the Jenny collection. That's also from Allie. But it's a black and white heart print, so I feel like it can go with any Felicity Jane collection. So I'm really trying to be good about pulling in from other collections, other Felicity Jane kits all month long. So that scrap's going to make it on here. I do have a scrap of this solid coral from the first layout, so I want to find a way to incorporate that. The heart paper and the floral paper were kind of running together because they're both on white bases, so I wanted to have this color just around those corners where the heart paper would overlap the floral, just so you can kind of see the definition of all the layers. So I'm just going to, again, just gutting and being frugal, but I'm trying to save what's hidden So I have that for another layout, but also I can have enough to stretch to the bottom of the page. So it just looks like one long strip that's layered behind the heart paper. And I think that serves its purpose by just separating those patterns a little bit, but it brings in some more color from that floral, so everything looks a little bit more cohesive. So I have that down. I really like how those layers look. It's pretty simple, not too complicated. I really tried to pull in that scrap of a grid paper from the Reese collection. You guys saw me use that on the first layout, so I really wanted to use it on this one. But just with the background being a white and pink grid, I didn't want to add another grid. So that's why I decided not to use that scrap. But I do like how this 12 by 12 is a grid, so it still ties into that first layout in that way, even though I'm not using the identical grid paper. I thought about using a glassine bag tucked up there by the tag just for another layer, and usually that's a go-to for me and I don't question it, but for some reason on this layout it's looking kind of funny, so I do end up taking that glassine bag off. But I'm gonna let it sit for a while I focus on this other cluster with so much of the visual weight being at the top of the page, especially that upper left-hand corner. I wanted a little cluster in the opposite corner just to balance it out a little bit. So you can see where I'm taking another scrap of that wood grain, I'm trimming that into a fishtail banner, and I'm pulling in the floral tag from the die cut set, just so that floral that's on that vertical strip is also balanced on the right hand side. So I like how that looks. I'm also pulling in this little scallopy die cut piece, and I think that helps tie in with the black and white hearts. And then I'm just threading both tags with black and white twine just to keep that black and white kind of look going. I think I'm gluing things down. I'm not sure if I've glued the photos down or not. I thought maybe if I did the glassine bag behind the tag I would like it more, but it ended up just being unnecessary. I really didn't think this page needed the glassine bag. So I'm going to glue down that tag. I do want to add some more to this lower right hand corner, and I'm thinking I'll go with one of those little circular chipboard stickers. And I end up going with the Love This. I wanted a black and white element just again to tie in with the black and white hearts. And out of all of those, I thought the Love This would be nice. There's no text on this layout yet. I know I am going to have a title and maybe a little bit of journaling, but I just wanted some text in that lower right hand corner. But I thought if I just had that Love This piece, it would kind of blend in too much to the scallopy strip and the tag. And I also wanted that coral solid in that other cluster too, just again so it's balanced. So kind of just to solve all of those problems, I took a circular punch that was a little bigger than that circular die cut and just punched a circle out to mat the chipboard in. And I think that's nice. It helps pull that color, the coral color over, but it also helps that Love This pop a little bit more. So I really like that. And I know I'm going to have a little bit of embellishment up there by the tag, but I wanted a visual triangle here. So I just wanted a little cluster on the left-hand side of the llama, just so you had interest in 3 corners of the page. And I'm going back in with those Millie Puffy stickers to add a little bit more interest too. I know I want like a journaling spot or my title or something below that tag. I thought about maybe using this one, but immediately I don't like it. I thought about trimming this white and black diagonal into another tag to have layered up just to emphasize the black and white. But I honestly, I kind of just like the layers how they are. So I'm going to do a little bit of embellishment and then I will play with my title. But I did switch a couple things out. I thought about using that floral beautiful tab just to tie in with the floral tag in the lower right hand cluster, but I have that big floral running down the side right there. I just really didn't think it was necessary, and with pulling in some more black and white pops, I decided to switch it out for this black and white tab. There is a blank spot in it. I thought about just writing the date, but another thing I forget about a lot are my Tim Holtz word stickers. So I thought it would be nice just to pull in one of those there. So I just did the word photograph white on black just so it had a bold little pop. And then I just layered up a couple of those puffy stickers. And then you saw I did another little mini tag next to the llama with another puffy heart. So I like that. And now I'm back with the Sarah chipboard stickers. I used this alphabet on the last page, so I really wanted to tie it in on this companion page as well. but I didn't, it's kind of a larger font. So with me wanting a longer title, I decided just to do what I did on the last layout and do animals in this bigger font. And then I went in with another Felicity Jane alphabet called Essentials, and I love it. It's this little puffy tile alphabet. It's so cute. And I decided I would use that for the rest of the title that will run above it. So basically the smaller font will read I will always find, and then I have the larger word that says animals, so I will always find the animals. And then I'm just going to do a little bit of journaling just so that makes a little bit more sense, but I think it's kind of self-explanatory. You can see, especially from this top-down view, it doesn't look as bad in person, but right now you can really see how that animals seems to blend into the background. So now that I'm adding pops of black, you'll see I kind of just outline that word in black, and it really changes it by just having that kind of black outline, and you can read it a lot better. I mess up in a few parts of the outlining, but it's okay. What are you going to do? So you'll kind of see that in a bit too, but I just want to point out how the animals looks before I outline it, so that way you can really see the difference it makes when I do outline it. I really wanted to use a pocket card on this page. I was really hoping I could use a pocket card on every page this month, but I just went through the pocket cards again and just didn't see one that I thought would make sense. But I felt like I needed something. The page just looked too floaty, like I needed to contain it. I don't know how to describe visually what was putting my eye off, but I decided just to do faux stitching in black around the outside. And for whatever reason, I just feel like that just grounds the whole layout, and I really, really like how it looks. I think it changes the whole look of it. So I love this technique. I also don't do this enough either. But sometimes all your layout needs just to finish it off is an outline around the whole thing. So that's pretty much what I'm doing now with the faux stitching. And then I went ahead and did my journaling above my title, and it just says being around animals is good for my soul. And I just doodled a couple little hearts. But you'll also see me outline animals as well. So just using the pen for everything here. I didn't want to do too much journaling, but I just wanted a little something. And this is where I will outline the alphabet. So hopefully it's not too obvious where I mess up. But I feel like this little outline around the edge, and you'll really be able to see it in the close-ups, it just really helps these alphabets stand out and be more, legible. Which again, in person, you can read it easily even without the outline, but this outline here really helps. But after that, I think I go in with some black Nuvo drops. And I think that's it. So I just wanted a little cluster Nuvo drops in each cluster. So I'm doing a little 3 here, over by that tiny tag, and then over in my bottom right hand cluster. And I think that's the perfect finishing touch. So I'm going to try to leave this how it is. There is that open pink space. I'm trying not to fill up because I think visually it looks really interesting like that. So that's pretty much it. Here are the close-ups. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.